I'd like to call the Monterey Bay Community Power Policy Board of Directors meeting of Wednesday, December 5th, 2018 to order. The time being 10:40. Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Directors Brown.
Here.
Hoffman Gomez.
Present.
Termini.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Is absent. Delgado is here, but he's currently absent. Orozco is absent. Munzer.
Here.
Freeman.
Here.
Vice Chair McShane is absent. And Chair McPherson.
Here. I do expect Vice Chair McShane to be here. We're going to recess into closed session to discuss some issues that are on the agenda later. But I did want to mention that item 21, the adopt a resolution approving the inclusion of the City of San Luis Obispo and City of Morro Bay into Monterey Bay Community Power Authority. We're going to move that up because the representatives need to be back to San Luis Obispo this afternoon. So when we come back, item number 21 will move up to, shall we say, 5A, and then we'll go from there. Maybe we should we report on probably the closed session items first? Doesn't matter.
Prior to recessing to closed session, just for the record, and for items 2 and 3, there aren't unless the clerk has any. There are no other changes other than the order that the chair expressed. No other changes to the agenda.
Okay.
No, they're not.
So it's proper to say have item 21 becomes, say, 5A. Is that all right? That'd be correct?
Do that, we would make it 6A.
6A, fine. Okay, very well. Okay. Are there any corrections or additions? We're going to recess into closed session. First order of business, I would like to mention that Mr. Delgado is here, present. Corrections or additions to the closed session agenda? Anybody have any corrections?
Excuse me, Chair. I believe we also want to bring up
public comment.
I believe we also want to bring up item number 21, which is the implementation plan, so that they can also work on.
In the closed session?
6B.
6B.
Just 22, actually, I think.
Item 21 and 22.
Reordering item number 22 up so that San Luis Obispo can also.
Okay, the inclusion and then the approving the addendum to number. Okay, that should be also with 6 under 6, right?
Correct.
Great. Okay, very well. Thank you. That's good. Okay, I think we're well understood. Is there any public comments on issues that people have concerns about, items on the closed session agenda? Okay, then we're going to recess into closed session. I'm not sure when we'll reconvene, but there is going to be lunch served for members of the board of directors in the back here. It'll probably be arriving about 11 or 11:30, so we might be going to and from lunch if you wish, but let's recess now to closed session, and we'll reconvene when we finish that. swearing-in ceremony at all?
Yes, that's the approach. First, we approve the resolution. Once you do, then we swear in the mayor, and then she will sit right there at the dais, and we're going to discuss the implementation plan and revisions of it.
Okay. Who will be carrying out that, the swearing in? Do you, okay, Bren, should we do that? Oh, excuse me.
First the action.
Vote first.
Yeah, wait, was there any comment from the board? Okay, oh, yes.
Go Mustangs. We're so thrilled.
Both Mustangs.
We shared this at our last meeting. This is only the beginning. SLO County, the other jurisdictions, including Santa Barbara, really, I think, stand well poised, and we look forward to growing our efforts together.
And I should also ask, is there any public comment? Anybody from the public who would like to say anything aside from the mayor? Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Parker and Kaufman Gomez. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So ordered. So now we will go ahead and go with the swearing-in ceremony so she can, Ms. Harmon can join us up here at the podium. Go ahead.
I, Heidi Harmon, do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the
Thank you. Okay, now to go on to item number 22, to adopt a resolution approving addendum number 1 to the Monterey Bay Community Choice Aggregation Implementation Plan and Statement of Intent. Mr. Bashi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is generally the first step that every CCA have to take in order to become a business. You put together an implementation plan, which really is a business plan that says how your financials is going to look like when you start operation. Can you handle the service that you are about to get into? The same thing applies if you want to expand your CCA. It's less work than the work that we had to do in order to get in business to begin with. That work now is done. We have an addendum to the implementation plan that we've submitted back to the CPUC in August of 2017. And to the extent that you folks approve of it, we'll be able to submit that to the CPUC prior to December 31st. Any delay beyond that will force the inclusion of the two cities to happen in 2021. As it is, if we can submit the plan by December 31st, we'll be able to phase or launch the two cities in January of 2020. So the addendum is before you today. We request your approval of the resolution, which of course once it happens, then we'll file that with the California Public Utilities Commission, and they have 90 days to certify that they have actually received the implementation plan, and it does line up with all the requirements that they have for what an implementation plan need to look like. So, any questions? Be glad to answer.
Questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
Move approval of the resolution.
Approval by, motion by Delgado, seconded by McShane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered unanimously. Okay, now we have, go to item number 7. For items not listed on the agenda, is there anybody that has a public comment on the board? Or Mr. Hurst?
Pardon me, I just want to say that
Oh,
I don't
excuse
mean
me.
to be rude and immediately leave after I've just been sworn in, but I do have to go back and see the Mustangs, the students on campus. So thank you for re-agendizing. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for including us. We very, very much appreciate it.
Made clear and very well understood.
Thank you.
Tell the Mustang family hello.
Yes, I will.
Congratulations, Mayor Harmon.
Thank you.
Congratulations, board. You know, I had a few minutes, quiet minutes, to sit here and think about what I was going to say, and I want to say thank you very much for bringing light to the Monterey Bay area in so many ways. You know, there's some more of the things that need to be done about reaching out to segments of the population that still don't quite get this for one reason or another, but I know you're working on that, and you're making great progress here, and we're pleased that you've included our partners, and I just want to say thank you to everyone else who came near and far today. We're lucky to have this momentum going, and somebody needs to say thank you. Thank you.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Anyone else would like to address this in the public? Items not on the agenda.
Good morning, everyone. Michael Saint with Campaign for Sustainable Transportation and also representing Citizens Climate Lobby. I've been attending the CAC meetings the last 4 months. It seems like you've all selected very, very good people on this council, and they also seem to work very well with Mr. Hibashi and also staff, so you can be very proud of your selections. In the near future, you're going to be getting programs and things to select from the CAC as well as staff. And what I'm presently hoping that a lot of these programs will come from the community. At present, after attending 4 of these meetings, and it's no one's fault here, they've been all staff recommendations. And I think the important thing here is we do have the third word of community in our title, and not a lot of people are showing up to these meetings. You know, people are working and have times. I think we need to have a little bit more outreach and go to the community to get programs that they would like to see funded and recommended. How you do this is obviously outreach. A lot of the things that go on, you know, Skype and these issues are in the papers. People just aren't reading these, or they may not have the electronic devices to know that you're even here. I'd like to also recommend that these programs that staff's recommend are very good programs, the EV infrastructure, the payments for EV cars and things like this. But I think the community needs to weigh in on what they desire. The 2 areas I'd like to see more emphasis in is empowering representative communities and disenfranchised communities. Another one would be energy conservation and efficiency of structures, especially those in low-income areas. If you really want to help those in need, you can start by reducing their transportation costs and their energy costs. That would be immediate savings. I have a suggestion for this, but I would use that under item number 16, so I don't take too much more time here. I want to emphasize that you please keep an eye on why we have formed this CCE. Some of the things are 100% renewable energy is the goal, representing and serving the community, local build-out and jobs, helping the underrepresented communities, reducing rates, and reducing greenhouse gases. We need to engage the public more. I would suggest more public workshops and then specifically invite the public so we can have a meet and greet and ask their suggestions. And what I mentioned earlier is we need to go to them. It's apparent that they're not coming to the meetings or maybe even writing you letters. So I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay. We'll move on to item number 8, corrections or additions to the open session agenda. Is there any corrections or additions? None seen. Okay. We have now items number 9. We have 2 of our distinguished board of directors of the policy board, Jerry Munzer and Michael Termini, who are going to be leaving us. And as with everyone who has been associated with this 16-city, 3-county agency, well now 18-city, 3-county agency, I guess you could almost say, it's taken a lot of cooperative effort, a lot of understanding, and a sense of openness. This is relatively new. I think there's 18 CCAs in the state now, but I think we were the first tri-county. We were the first tri-county agency at inception, and it took a lot of cooperative efforts and understanding for people to say, you know, I'll listen more, and it took some convincing. As I remember, we were forming this agency. I think it was 140 meetings that we chalked up over 3 or 4 years, 4 years. But at the top of that list really were Jerry Munzer and Mike Termini, and they have San Luis Obispo, or San Benito County and the city of Capitola. Really, without them, we couldn't have been, and without any of us, honestly, we couldn't have been as successful as we have been, and we are, and we're moving ahead. So I want to say my deep, having been in this so-called political scene for some time now, I can't think of an agency that's worked better together, and these two were at the core of that. So I appreciate their efforts, and we're going to miss you, but we really thank you. And what I'd like to do is I have a couple proclamations. How many of these have you guys handed out? Yeah, probably 1 or 2. Yeah, but so I do want to present a proclamation, but I would like to hear a comment from each of you. And just thank you sincerely for all of your efforts. Mr. Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know sitting on the AMBAG board, you were coming to us and talking to us about this several years ago. And it sounded exciting. I got behind it, tried to get San Benito County behind it, which we managed to do. And I really appreciate where we have come. And with Tom's assistance and all the staff, we have come a long ways in a very short time. And it's because of your leadership, I feel, also, that we have gotten here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. I'll give you your proclamation. Let's see. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, people may not realize it, but you've been beating the drum for this organization for many more years than we've been involved. So it's to you and to Jenny that we owe this organization to and your leadership. I don't think, and like you all, I sit on a lot of cross-jurisdictional boards and commissions. This is the most highly functioning board that I sit on. It gets more done. It has brisk debate with mutual respect.
Don't look this way.
Yeah. And this is one of those meetings, with the exception sometimes of the 5-hour part of it, but this is one of those meetings I look forward to. I always leave learning something, thanks to Tom and the staff. I always enjoy getting together with other county representatives, and it's just been a joy. Thank you. And you can look forward to Scotts Valley taking our place a little preemptively. We decided to pass that on at the City Select Committee to Scotts Valley rather than have my alternate attend a single meeting. It just makes for better continuity. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Here you go. Okay, now we will move to or is there any comments from the public for any reason? It's just
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Pardon me?
Right here. Can I make a comment?
Yes,
I just
Mr.
want to, I don't want to let this get by quickly without expressing my deep appreciation for having Michael and Jerry on a board. Both of them were level-headed, calm, and were quite a bit of support to me over the last 12 months. I appreciate you being there, and I hope that you make your way back to these meetings. And if not, just give me a phone call and we'll get together and have a cup of coffee, where we usually have cups of coffee in the last few months.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bosch.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we now move on to the consent agenda. Items number 10 through 15. Is there? Yes. From the council?
Chair, I think you were about to do it.
Just like to pull item 15.
Like to pull item 15? Okay, we will make that, we'll move that down to 20A at this point. Right? Okay. Any other commissions or, okay, so we'll, for the consent agenda, anybody would like to move items number 10 through 14?
I'll move the
Oh,
consent
is
agenda.
anybody, any comments from the public on the items on the consent agenda? Item 15 being pulled and made item number 20A. No comments from the public? Okay, so we'll bring it back.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered.
Chair, excuse me, who moved? I'm sorry, I didn't grab.
Base, but
Oh.
I'll give it to
Who?
I think it was Sandy and down here.
Okay, Sandy and Frank, thank you.
Okay, now the report from the Community Advisory Council. We have a report from.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your participation and energy and interest in what we're doing. We're very, very happy to have a Community Advisory Council.
Right back at you, Chair McPherson. We're really happy to be part of the council ourselves. We've had 3 meetings thus far, and I believe you've already gotten a report on one of them, so I'm going to be catching you guys up over the last 2 meetings.
Could you pull the mic just a little closer? That's that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to start with our September meeting. On the 20th, we had a thorough overview of potential programs for our consideration by the Director of Communications and External Affairs, Jared Kilgrew, and Energy Programs Manager, Beth Trenchard. Ultimately, the CAC aligned with staff recommendations to support the following programs, which I believe there was a list of them in your, and so I'm not going to read them all out. But we have a number of public agencies in Santa Cruz alone that are very exciting about the option to deploy $1 million in funding, focused primarily on the electric vehicle incentive program targeting the low-income community and public agencies. With the $6 million CEC award to fund charging stations, which will begin in fiscal year 2019-2020. The solar installations at affordable housing sites and consulting support for program marketing. This is all, everybody's really excited over in our county. I've been getting a lot of good feedback. I actually go out and have meetings with local energy users, water purveyors, hospitals, folks to see what it is they're doing a lot of their use on and where they can help advance our mission and theirs through electric energy in a sustainable way. On October 18th, after a great deal of thought and input, CAC members reviewed and revised the bylaws and unanimously approved them with no additional edits. You guys have just approved the bylaws, so I guess they're gavelled in and set to go. In addition, the Director of Power Services, Dennis O'Neill, presented an update on the power supply mix of Monterey Bay Community Power. Given the alternatives, the CAC concurred with staff again to continue with the current policy. We believe in the mission of Monterey Bay Community Power and want to ensure that we are maximizing greenhouse gas reduction. Mr. O'Neill also presented an update on the Go Local RFO for local renewable generation and energy storage products. The CAC again agreed with staff recommendations to hold off on making any long-term commitments to local resources until the staff had the opportunity to compare the value of other programs. We want to make sure we are getting the most bang for our customers' buck on this program and just don't have the results we're hoping for despite the keen interest to invest in local energy projects and programs. Finally, Ms. Trenchard presented an update on the EV incentive program and the Cal EVIP, including proposed program timelines. At our last meeting on November 15th, Energy Solutions Senior Engineer Ed Pike gave a presentation on charging station building codes and a recipe for building code adoption. Presentation was favorably received, and we have asked staff to develop a plan for CAC consideration at our next meeting. We received another update on the MBCP programs from Ms. Trenchard. We are impressed at the speed with which this program is taking off and very interested in its progress. I also want to say that if anyone convinced the dealers a bulk discount is in their favor, it's Ms. Trenchard. Finally, Marketing Communications Manager Pete Berridge. Apologies if I murdered that last name. Gave an overview of the MBCP outreach and communications efforts listed below in your agenda. We are very impressed with the level of knowledge, expertise, and dedication of MBCP staff. We are also appreciative of the information that we get and are then able to pass along to the community members in our area. For example, I just recently gave a presentation on the Monterey Bay Community Power to the Regional Water Management Group of Santa Cruz County. And I tell you that the whole presentation was an amalgamation of everything I've received from these meetings. And with that knowledge, I was able to answer a myriad of questions they had after. Thank you for that knowledge and the opportunity to share. The organization has accomplished so much in its first year, including a 98% opt-in and being debt-free, that it's clear that that we're just getting things started. The CAC wish you all a wonderful holiday, and we look forward to helping achieve even more in 2019. Thank you for your time, and I would like to open up for any questions.
Thank you very much for everything you have, the energy, literally, that your committee your commission's put in. It's just invaluable to us, and it's very important to us to hear. Has there been, how many, there was a comment made, have there been just committee members there, commission members there, or has it been some members of the public as well?
There are members from the public that show up, but it's pretty clear that these are regular players in the game. So we're not getting a lot of input from people that are on the ground suffering from high energy costs or lack of access to.
Okay. Is there an announcement in the local newspaper wherever the commission meeting might be? I mean, so people can know about it? Is there some, okay.
I don't know exactly what the outreach is for the CAC meetings, but I think that is something that we would be very interested in getting some sort of formal input process together so that we can actually gather input from those that aren't able to make it to the meetings, that are probably never going to have their voices heard. I personally work on the Disadvantaged Communities grant funded from the Department of Water Resources in the Santa Cruz County. So I am working with local disadvantaged communities, but it's a process that takes a lot of effort and forethought that I think we would be very interested in doing. It's something that we've talked about in our meetings, but we don't have a formal process yet.
I just want to mention that we do blast this information on our website for the meeting and invite people in. We also planning for 2019 to hold at least 2 workshops where we can bring in the communities and just find out and get their input about what ideas and what programs we should be thinking about.
Okay. Any other
Remember
questions?
a program that Tom had mentioned
the
about
Community Advisory Council. Any other questions from the board?
Thank you so much.
Ms. Brown.
I guess I just have a comment. Given the discussion that we're having here, thank you so much for your participation and enthusiasm. Looking forward to hearing more from you all as we move forward. In terms of the, community engagement, because this has come up and, obviously on all of our minds, it would be great to hear if we are going to be doing some community meetings to the extent to which we're engaging with local partners who are working as representing underserved communities and how we kind of do that in collaboration as we move ahead. And I'd be happy to be involved in whatever capacity I can as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Delgado.
Yes. Are you Natalie?
I am Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie, for your report and all your efforts so far. A couple questions to ask you for some advice. How can we as an organization do better to communicate to people who we are, why we are, and make people understand, help people understand what we do better?
Well, from my experience, it's going to where the people are rather than asking them to come to you.
Okay, great. And second question, what can we do as a board to better support your advisory council?
I think it'd be interesting to have some brainstorming, visioning on how we can better gather information from the public and systemize it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. McShane.
Yeah, I think now's as good a time as any to just maybe offer some commentary. Thank you for your participation. I think the real sizzle in what we're doing here is the community programs. And the workshops sound wonderful. I'd love to have one in Salinas. And I also would just urge electronic means of reaching out. I've found, at least in our jurisdiction, you host a community meeting, it's not like it was back in the 80s. maybe they flocked a little more. There wasn't as many choices on the internet or the cable TV channels, and we're just not as cool. So I think that whether it be surveys or means of reaching out electronically, just to gather, to cast the net a little further. I'd also urge, and I've talked to Tom about this, some means, whether it just be, hey, email me, guys, if you'd like, but I would say something a little more formal to each of the directors. I know we all have our ideas for what some of the good programming could be, and maybe all of that could be funneled into a list of some sort that goes through some prioritization. The remark about so much of this is coming from staff is not a bad thing. Staff has got their ear to it pretty well, but we need to make sure that what is wanted and desired in the community pairs with what we want as a board and as an organization. So just happy to get that in there. Delighted by these meetings. Do you know where they'll be yet, Tom? Or
I wonder if Beth or JR can step up and help out with the times.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Abashi. Good morning, board directors. I'm J.R. Killigrew, Director of Communications and External Affairs. So we have something really cool brewing. Part of our program's roadmap this year is to develop what we call an electrification strategic plan, and that will look out into the future. We're going to set a goal of 2030, and what would it look like if the whole region is electrified to 10, 20, 30, 50%, 100%? What are the measures that we would get, that we'd have to deploy to get there? How much it would cost? What type of economic development would come from that? We want to use something like that as a linchpin for community events, because it helped kind of like focus the conversation about, what is our role as an electric utility in terms of driving this region towards economic growth and environmental growth and whatnot. So we're going to be using that and the findings from that to kind of like shape and develop the narrative for these two workshops that hopefully we'll have in the southern and the northern edge of our service area.
Got it. Well, maybe if I could just offer one last comment, because obviously some of us sit on some of these other boards, the Air District, AMBAG, what have you. I've heard through the grapevine that we're starting to spend money, and most of that's going towards electrification for vehicles, which is great. There's a lot of juice in that fruit, and I think transportation is the greatest contributor to kind of global greenhouse gases and such. So it makes sense, but it would behoove the public to make sure that that's what they want. And I think it's pretty easy to say, of course that's what they want. But boy, that's how I grew up. My mom would always say, this is what you want. And it's just a little bit of a different outcome. So however that feedback's taken, or however that manifests itself at the CAC or within this board and within our engagement with the public, I really hope it's like the public has spoken and this is what they want. I don't know how many millions of dollars we have earmarked for the electrification. I've heard everything from 5 to 12. I don't know how much we have to spend. Just sort of, maybe this is cart before the horse, but I think the key role of the CAC is to drive those programs, and we're all really looking forward to that. And I'm sure electrification will be a big piece of it.
These are, I think, good comments and good discussion around the CAC report, but be careful that we're not getting too far into some of the programming. And I think there's some things that may be in the CEO's report, and also items that can be agendized at a later meeting to have a more in-depth conversation beyond the response to the CAC report that we've discussed now.
Good. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Yeah.
Try to make this brief. I can tell you what I'd like. Michael Saint with Campaign for Sustainable Transportation. Presently trying to agendize a program with the CAC, since we're on number 16 here. I'm really in favor of all the infrastructure, EV stuff going on, and the car purchases. But I'd like to see it get back into the community, especially those that are the underprivileged sorts. And I think the best way to do this and reduce greenhouse gas emissions is through mass transit. I think EVs are wonderful, part of the problem is we have too many cars on the road. And doing EVs and ride shares and stuff is still going to keep the congestion. This is a very more bang for the buck type program. You'll also help eliminate congestion at the same time. And what I'm talking about is a program for free bus passes for downtown employees. We have this already started or being looked at in Santa Cruz City. It's been suggested by Santa Cruz Metro, and actually a resolution's been given to the city council. And this would be to fund 4,000 downtown employees for a one-year pilot program. I've also discussed this with Beryl Emerson, the director of Metro, and he's all in favor of this, would love to come make a presentation to the CAC. And the program would be preferable to them if it would at least go 2 to 3 years to make sure it actually took root and was successful. 3 positive goals of this program is eliminate greenhouse gas emissions, eliminate cars on the road, and help those in need by eliminating the transportation costs. Some families might even get rid of a car. So I think that is very, very valuable. And also have a specific cost for this program is $311,000, okay, depending on number of years. And some of it might be funded by the city, since the city has changed its city council makeup. It's gone a little bit more progressive, so that program may be somewhat funded by the city for a year for a pilot program, and maybe we can get some money from Monterey Bay Community Power to help the other year or two. Thank you very much. One quick thing, on the report from the CAC, is it possible to get some minutes to recognize the public comments and program requests that do show up also? Thank you.
You don't have to make a commitment, Sandy, so, yeah. From Santa Cruz. Any other comments from the public? Okay, that's a discussion item. We'll move to the Operation Board of Directors report. Saw Renee here.
Chair Renee had to leave for a meeting. He was waiting here for quite some time, and he asked me to make that report on his behalf. If that's okay with you,
sure.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
In October, the Operations Board looked at 2 different agreements. Both of them are for solar plus storage. First one is a 15-year power purchase agreement for 150 megawatt of solar plus 45 megawatt of storage with the Slate Limited Liability Corporation. The second contract was also it's a 20-year contract with Recurrent Energy, and that's for 120 megawatt of solar capacity plus 40 megawatt of storage supply. Both projects are split between us and Silicon Valley Clean Energy. They get 55% of them, we get 45%. We will work on joint operation now between the two of us and Silicon Valley Clean Energy, to make sure that we share both the obligations and the benefit from these 2 different projects. In November, the Operations Board considered the MCPA compensation schedule and approved it, which you have looked at earlier today. That's the report that Renee had for you folks. Be happy to answer any questions.
How many different CCAs cooperate in this, as we have with Silicon Valley at this point?
In this project, none. And
First to do
I don't know of any other CCA that has worked with a different CCA on joint contracting for power, utility scale power. That's the first of its kind. And I think it worked well because it started about a week before I left Silicon Valley Clean Energy and continued on when I came here. So I've worked with Dennis, who used to be with Silicon Valley Clean Energy and now is with us. We started it back at Silicon Valley and continued it when we both moved to Monterey, and that made it really much easier to work. Usually with these kind of things, it's tougher to bring in more than one entity to do a joint project. 2 is doable. If it goes to 3, 4, or 5, it becomes a little difficult unless you do some sort of a joint action between all those 5 entities that can collectively work together.
Kind of another first for us, and I think it would be great if I'm sure you have, but to express our appreciation and, just willingness to join them and doing it in this manner. It's just a better operation for both of us under
Yes.
these circumstances. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Public? The CEO's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by introducing the latest employee that we have. He's the Business Development Manager, Matt Willis. Matt, are you around? Can come in and just give us the 1 minute introduction.
That's it. That's it. We usually give people up to 3, but go ahead.
Hopefully all I need is 1, right? So to your point, John, we have some Cal Poly brethren up here.
Yeah, the Broncos.
I'm Cal Poly Pomona, so sister schools. But
there you go.
Anyway, thank you guys. Matt Willis, new Business Development Manager. Super excited to be here. Can't explain to you how much energy means to me from my background and interest and just drive to make the energy realm of the planet overall a cleaner one. Been studying it for quite some time. I think I said to the CAC a few weeks back that I started in energy before An Inconvenient Truth came out, so I do have a vested interest in energy. That's what drives us. It's in the fabric of everything that we do, and hopefully we can convey that to the community and make it a much more acceptable and just better way forward for a cleaner environment. So, yeah, I'm here to support, so anything you guys need, let me know.
Hey. Right.
I just want to add that Matt hit the ground running because as soon as he joined, we put him right in front of the city of Gonzales to let him know that he's the one that they're going to work a deal with in order for us to do some microgeneration, microgrid up there. And he's been talking to just about all the ag customers that he can manage to get a meeting with lately.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Definitely. Thank you, guys.
Quick update on the PCIA decision, which I really don't have any. It's still pretty much, we got numbers from them late November, and every time they give us some numbers, a few days later they say, oh, sorry, we made an error. We're going to go back and fix it. The latest numbers that we got from them are not detailed enough to be able to share with you, and they managed to combine the proceeding for the PCIA with the proceeding on the rates that the generation rates that they're going to come up with. And the one good news, I guess, that I can share with you today is that there's a 99.9% chance that we're not going to get these numbers in December, which in order for them to apply January 1st, as they do every year, they have to get you those numbers by as late as December 28th. That's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen because the last meeting of the CPUC is scheduled for December 13th, and there's nothing on the agenda that implies that PG&E has their rates there for approval. So most likely they will do what they did last year. They will push it to January or February of 2019, and that gives us a little bit of breathing room to be able to change our rates. Before you today, we're going to be talking later about what do we need to do with rate adjustments, but I just want to give you some good news in the summer that it looks like we're not going to be addressing rate adjustments until January or February to be applicable March 1st. Final thing that not final, but one of the things I wanted to report on is the Gonzales Business Park. They have been talking to us actually since I started. They've been looking to do something over there in order to help some of the businesses that need to start and can't because PG&E is asking for a lot of time and a lot of money in order to be able to connect them. They have been trying to do something on their own to start their own district. I think they've probably came to the realization that it would be best if they have somebody else take on that work. And Chair Renee has been talking to me about it, and we are looking into it, the economics of it, the viability of it. And we should be able to bring something to you, hopefully in March, at least on a feasibility study or what to do next step if we want to start building those microgenerations facilities around south of Monterey and other areas as needed in order to address the shortcomings of Pacific Gas and Electric. There are a couple of items that are not in your report, but I want to report on them because they've obviously been happening lately. We have a flooding in our office. That's why we're here today. We've been working very hard on it along with the property manager to get it all taken care of. We had tested ourselves for any problems in the air because we don't want the staff to go back until the problem is completely fixed. We have a couple more days to do additional work, remediation work, and we're planning, if all goes well, to test on Friday again, and the staff will be back to the office on Monday. I think it's going to be fine by then. It seems that things are moving in the right direction. So initial plan is we're back to our offices back on Monday next week. And one thing that just happened, I believe yesterday, there was a bill that got introduced. The legislators come to go to Sacramento to say goodbye to each other, and they go off to the winter holidays, and they just drop a few bills on the way out. So far, there are at least 6 bills, that 3 of them related to energy, that have been introduced, all of which is to try to save PG&E after the latest fires. One that got introduced yesterday is AB 56 by Eduardo Garcia, and that bill is suggesting that the CPUC and the CEC, that is California Public Utilities Commission, as well as the California Energy Commission, get together and come up with a plan by March of 2020 to create an agency, a state agency that will be allowed to go out and buy resources and pretty much allocate these resources to all the wholesale companies out there. An idea that I don't think anybody out there is liking, not the IOUs, not the independent power producers, and we certainly are pretty much opposing it because we have the right to go out and buy our own resources. That's one of the things that kind of makes this agency what it is. Our ability to have autonomy and acquisition of resources, but we're still talking to CalCCA about it and trying to figure out what position to take eventually, or if we fix it, how we fix it. Again, that just happened yesterday, so there've been a lot of talk, a lot of emails flying back and forth between a lot of people at the CalCCA to try to establish a position in regard to this bill. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop and address any questions that you might have.
Questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, we will move on then to the item, item number 19, the approval process to adjust the Monterey Bay Community Power rate schedules for the calendar year of 2019. This is an action item. Mr. Bashi?
I'm going to ask, Tiffany's been working on this for quite some time. She's going to be introducing this item.
Thank you, Tom. Tiffany Law, Director of Internal Operations. In September last year, the Policy Board approved our rate design to set identical rates as those offered by PG&E, net of franchise fee and the PCIA, so that our customer will continue to see no change to their electric bill. For 2019, we will maintain the same methodology used to calculate our 2018 rates. 2 months ago, the CPUC voted in favor of the alternate proposed decision regarding the PCIA. The official PG&E rate adjustment for 2019 are expected to be finalized and published near December 31st, to be applicable on January 1st, 2019. As just mentioned by Tom, there is a 99.9% chance that PG&E may postpone their annual rate adjustment from January 1st to March 1st, 2019. We seek to adjust our rates for 2019 as close to January 1st as possible to maintain a price structure that is consistent consistent and competitive with PG&E. To do so, we request the board to approve two approaches, whichever is applicable, to adjust our new rates for 2019 and the lead time required to update the rates in our third-party billing system. The first approach, we finalized our 2019 rates by December 30th or earlier, based on the actual PG&E rates and made effective January 7th, 2019. The second approach, we finalized our 2019 rates by February 20th, 2019, based on the actual PG&E rates and made effective March 1st, 2019. The recommended action will ensure cost parity for customers enrolled in our service, while also maintaining appropriate revenue requirements for operations. A full reporting of the amended budget will be brought to you for approval in March, after implementing the necessary rate adjustments.
Okay.
Just in summary, what we're asking for is tell us to keep going the way we've done it last year, which is we'll figure out when PG&E's rates are approved by the CPUC, we'll take that, subtract from it all the exit fees that they have, whether that's the PCIA or others, and that will be our rates that we're going to charge our customers. And obviously, since we don't know it now, and since you're not going to meet again until March after the rates become applicable, we're just asking for you to say okay to the methodology for calculating those rates, and when they are clear and known, we'll go ahead and change them and go from there.
What will the impact on our 3% rebate at the end of the year? Will this? I know we're at parity. We're going to continue that, of course. But how about the 3% rebate at the end of the year?
The 3% rebate for this fiscal year that ended September 31st is now being paid out in November and December. And just to share with you, it looks like we're going to be, before the end of December, paying out roughly about $4 million to all of our customers. And now comes in the next fiscal year, which starts October 1st and goes all the way to September last of next year. The rebate for that will be calculated back in October and November of next year and be paid out again to the customers in November and December of next year.
Yes, Mr. McShane.
Just a clarification, will that come as a check? I can't remember. I know we talked about it.
It comes as a credit on the
bill.
Yeah.
Is there a
Yes.
Christmas card or some notification in any way to say, hey, look at the great work we're doing, or is it just a credit and hopefully they notice?
Yeah. I think we stay short of. We're gonna certainly put it out there as often and as we can. It's not going to be a Christmas card, because a Christmas card to all of our customers will cost about $300,000. I'd rather give that money back to them as part of the rebate. But it will be in every way that we can advertise and put this out there so the folks understand that they have saved by being with us. We will do exactly that.
I wonder if we shouldn't have some kind of a public or newspaper release, press release of some type, just to announce that these are coming to you now, and this is where it'll be on your bill. I think that's the least we can do. I agree. The Christmas cards is an overreach, but I think that we should have some kind of a press release letting people know that we're sticking with what we said we were going to do.
I've already bombarded JR with a couple of emails, all in capital letters, to make sure that's going to happen.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Delgado.
I'm sorry. I didn't have my hand up.
Go ahead.
Whenever. Quick question.
Short of a Christmas card, I think there's things we can do to appreciate the people that have stayed with us by saying, thank you, here's your rebate. And that sends a message to those who aren't with us that, hey, we're not getting a rebate. But using Facebook for very little money to do boosts and paid ads, get the word out, and maybe even putting a couple of paid advertisements in some of the more popular Santa Cruz and Monterey County weeklies. We know the total budget of all that, maybe $5,000 or $10,000, and we'd get a good bang for the buck to let people know we're coming to our first rebate session. Thank you very much. Sorry if you weren't part of it. Not too late to join, and you'll get a rebate next year. Seems like a good time to toot the horn of the success that's happened.
Maybe, J.R., you tell us a little bit about your plan.
Sure, yeah.
J.R. Killebrew.
Hi, again, J.R. Kaluger, Director of Communications and External Affairs. I apologize if I was sitting in the back. PG&E has a call about direct access and all the customers that could be departing, so I'm kind of torn right now. I'm trying to make sure everybody's okay, as they say. But more specifically about the question on outreach around the rebates, we're getting information in right now kind of as we speak to be able to reconcile and to kind of distill what Tom said about it's technically $3.9 million that have either been paid out or accrued up until the end of November. It's going to be close to about $800,000 for residential customers, the same thing for ag. And I think the major chunk is for the business community. That's the really interesting piece I think I see about the rebates is, for any of the business community that was wondering about, well, is this worthwhile? Am I going to save money? That industry, that group, that sector is going to get the biggest chunk of the rebates. But in terms of what we're going to proactively do, I know Shelley and Peter and our team and Mark not only doing community events about this, distilling the information, but we're going to do social media ads, get it out on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. We're also going to do some paid ads. Recently, we actually had 3 paid advertisements that went in the 3 kind of county weekly newspapers that thanked all the customers for enrolling. We had that running for about, I think, 6 or 8 weeks. So I think we're going to recharge that with the rebate, something rebate focused. So it's there kind of talking about the amount of money that's being reinvested in the region. So moving forward, I think we're going to be able to kind of look at a more strategic approach to when the rebates hit the bills, like for commercial customers in June and December, we'll do kind of an outreach strategy around that. And then for the residential customers, when it hits in December, we'll do more kind of concerted outreach there. So I guess we got a lot of great things to deploy to make sure that folks know about this. But I think in terms of reaching out to the key commercial customers, I know for a fact we're working with one very prominent leading agricultural firm that we actually sent them earlier today their estimated rebate to date. And we just got a big thank you from them because otherwise they would have not had that. We're working with a lot of other, like the top 100 users just to let them know, hey, folks, by the way, we appreciate your business. This is what we're putting back on your bill. And it's definitely not going unnoticed.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Brown.
I just have a quick question, and then given the volatility and the kind of machinations at the state level, I appreciate you staying on top of this and keeping us apprised. So I'd be prepared to move the recommendation that we approve a process for continuing with the formula we've been using. Just have a quick question. Any sense on when this, the machinations might come to some kind of conclusion and we might actually know? If that's before March, would we just get that via some kind of communication from you about where it's settled?
Absolutely. Most likely it's going to happen in February, just like it did last year. And as soon as it does and as soon as it's out, we'll make sure that all the rate adjustments that we plan to make will be communicated to you folks via an email, then eventually during the month of March.
So I'd move that we approve.
Anybody want to make a second? There's still more comments. Second from Delgado. Mr. Freeman.
I just had a suggestion. They're talking about Christmas cards. I'd say maybe a Christmas note in the water bills of the various jurisdictions could go a long ways. It apply more to the residential than the commercial, but everyone would get one and be good publicity because everybody has water, at least most, hopefully.
Right. I don't have a water bill.
You have a comment, Jared? Okay. Any other comments? Kaufman-Gomez.
Yes, thank you. The primary default option is a 3% rebate. What do we know about anything we're doing to maybe have people switch over to some of the other options? Are we doing any marketing along that line? Because I know that was also some means of being able to put some money towards some of the projects for CAC. And I know that when I was with Sonoma to visit, it was a really big deal for them to market other options than the 3% rebate to the consumer.
Joe is not too far, so I'll let him speak.
I'm sticking close today. That's a great question, Board Director Kaufman-Gomez. So we are starting to scale up our outreach and marketing around MB Prime, which is our 100% renewable option. As you folks all know, the Monterey Bay Aquarium was the first kind of hallmark business to move forward with that. We've been actually in conversation with them about doing an ad campaign. So they're actually looking for another steward to help join on to do a PR blitz. So if any of your jurisdictions or you're looking to opt up your municipal accounts, we'd be more than welcome to have you on board and do a joint effort with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I know the city of Santa Cruz, we're starting to chat with them a little bit about that. But in terms of MB Share and MB Green Plus, which are the two kind of reinvestment engines that we see to take that 3% rebate. I think all told, we have about, I think it's about 260 voluntary actions right now. The majority of them are in MB Prime, but we are seeing more folks reinvesting their rebates in MB Green Plus and MB Share, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing. So what we're going to do is, again, in 2019, now that we've kind of got our feet underneath us, we're really going to make sure we trumpet all those programs so that folks know that they can help additionally reinvest into programs that they see as beneficial outside of just supporting us through the electric generation charges. But a lot of it is going to be, we're going to reach out to all those customers and hopefully have them become stewards or ambassadors and just thank them for their recognition and their leadership and start kind of developing kind of a grassroots effort around these service offerings and rebate options as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board? Okay, we have a motion. No, there's no comments from the general public. We have a motion and a second to accept the recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered unanimously. We will go now to item number 20, approval of the Chief Executive Officer 2018 bonus compensation. How do you want to? Mike, do you want to?
We formed a subcommittee. We evaluated the executive director. We reached out to board members from the policy board as well as the operations board. We also reached out to direct reports on staff. We compiled all of the evaluations, and first off, it was exceeds expectations or far exceeds expectations. It was a great evaluation in many areas. There were some areas where there were some criticisms and some places where we mentioned to the executive director that he could improve upon, which were well received. But by and large, all of the metrics that this board set for providing this bonus have been met or exceeded. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Comments from the public?
I'll move that we approve the bonus as directed previously.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Delgado?
Just want to say in public what I said in closed session. Tom, I think you've done a great job leading this organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Now, item number 20A, we'll go back to 15, approval of the MBCP's compensation policy amendments to employee salary and benefits schedule and revision of certain job titles. It's an action item. Mr. McShane.
Yeah, just pulled this item as we had a lot of conversation on it. Want to acknowledge that the process was followed. The operations board did a thorough part in making sure that what came forward was meaningful, and I think everybody is in agreement with what's there. The nature of CCAs being different than just purely public jurisdictions like a city or a county government. We're non-PERS. Our employees are non-exempt. They're all exempt. So, with that, this may come with some discussion, I'd like to move the item with the two directives to set performance salary adjustments so that there is no adjustment when expectations are not met, and that an annual performance adjustment not exceed 5%, and that specifically PTO be awarded between Christmas and New Year's in 2018, but that it be one time in nature, really in recognition of how incredible a startup this year has been. So that is a motion and a lot of commentary.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Parker.
Thank you. I appreciate the direction that Director McShane is going. I also wonder whether we need to explicitly under the compensation policy under item number 6, whether we need to add something explicitly about being able to allow for a parity adjustment if needed, or whether that's understood.
Question for staff.
We can, if you, I think it was understood, but if you wish to also have that be in a motion in addition to Director McShane's recommendation, certainly we'll make sure that the record will have it.
I'm okay with having it be, well, I don't know. Mr. McShane, do you want to?
I'd accept a friendly amendment. We could add the language allowing for a parity adjustment when justified. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay with the
Okay
second?
with the second. Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Mr. Delgado.
I support the motion, 75%, but there is a 25%, a big piece of it that I think is a fundamental problem. In my job, I have a regular step increase, but every year my supervisor evaluates me and I need to get a passing grade at least. And if I get an excellent grade, he has the opportunity to give me a small, let's say a $500 star award, cash bonus. But I'm not beholden to my supervisor every single day that I better stay on the good side or I'm not going to get a raise. And that relieves me of the pressure of trying to, do things his way or her way. It gives me that comfort that as long as I stay within the law and I'm ethical, et cetera, my supervisor doesn't have any more power over me than anybody else. The way this is set up under number 7 and 8, each employee will be reviewed each year by the chief executive officer, and that chief executive officer, whether it be our current one or one 10 years from now, will have the decision of how much of a raise to give that employee. And I don't think I think that beholdens the employees too much to the CEO and distances the employees too much from us and the Citizens Advisory Council. So I would rather have this organization move to be more normal, that is normal in how raises are given other municipal and other government employees. This structure is more like a private organization. That's my fundamental disagreement with the motion. Under number 7 and 8, those are my discrepancies.
Mr. McShane?
Yeah, and I just would say that feedback's taken. Steps, schedules, clearly federal, state, other sorts of governmental organizations would employ that.
And JPAs.
Yeah, and JPAs for that matter. I think we go with this. This is a different sort of organization, and it is a leap of faith. I think each of us working with our own jurisdictions that tend to be, represented and government. This is a different sort of organization, given that it's a CCA. So, I think the discussion thus far has led me to believe that we're going to have this conversation again. It's either going to work or it's not. And based on the size and the scope that we've looked at, I hope the 75% is enough to convince you that we go with it.
Yes.
I
Ms.
just
Brown.
to add to that, I agree with Vice Chair McShane that this is something that we're obviously going to be revisiting, and I too have those concerns given my comfort zone is in the public sector. But as the organization expands and evolves, I think that we certainly will need to and want to revisit and perhaps end up closer to the kind of structure that we're more accustomed to in our local jurisdiction. So for now, I think this is a reasonable way to go, and I'll support it. Thanks.
Okay.
Chair?
Yes.
Another comment that I have with this as well is we don't have a human resource director. And I would believe that at the point that we do have one hired that has the background when it comes to personnel issues, salaries, compensation, schedules, evaluations, then at that point, this could be then revisited with an HR director that has that expertise, working alongside of our legal team to make sure that it's something that is acceptable for not only our board, but the agency, what would be the normal factor for that kind of guideline when it comes to the staff salaries and compensation and studies and the results of that. So I would think that this is a good start, and it certainly allows us to do a revisit, and then at that point we would actually have staff hired that has that type of expertise.
Ms. Parker.
Thank you. Just another comment sort of along these lines. I think it's going to be important with any policy like this that that the staff make sure that there is, that everyone gets trained as to how this all works, that there really are those annual performance reviews, and any work plan or check-ins that need to happen during the course of the year, as well as making sure that the reviews have a way to really be honest, supportive, really looking at the employees' strengths, where they're trying to go, really building their goals and their work plan to strengthen areas that need it, but also to motivate them to possibly learn new skills. I mean, really have it be a very meaningful review process. So,
very well. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay, we have a motion. Is that well understood? We've got it down? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No? One no. Mr. Delgado's no for the reasons mentioned. Now we have a couple of information items. The treasurer's report of item number 23.
It's very quickly, and Tiffany is here to present it. Just quickly, do you have a couple of notes on on the treasury report? Yeah, because I can do it if you want me to, Tiffany. Okay.
Okay, in front of you that we have the treasury report for fiscal year up to date as of October 31st. And then you can see that for the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, our reserves level goes in to $51 million as of October 31st. And if you're looking at page 7, and then we have the budgetary comparison schedule, and that is compared to between our budget and the actual number for 1 month from October 1st until October 31st. And then we are, in terms of revenue, is lower than budget level because due to the lower volume used. And then for staffing, we actually was under budget, mainly because of the timing of new hires. And for professional services as well is under budget because, we manage to use we just have a very strict control over the expenses for professional services. But for legal expenses, it's higher than budget, mainly because we hired outside legal costs for regulatory and energy procurement needs. Greater, the needs are greater than we planned. And for marketing and customer enrollment, we manage it under budget, as well as the data management services, PG&E fees. And for the other general and administrative, and it's also under budget. And then for this category, it includes all the occupancy cost, the industry membership dues, and other general and administrative cost. And we haven't spent money on the programs yet, but we will expect to spend it for the rest of the fiscal year. And then for the cost of energy, it's also under budget, mainly because lower than expected volume used by customer and better than anticipated market prices, and then also the timing differences between the projected and actual REC deliveries. And then on the next page, you guys can see is the financial dashboard for October 2018. For the sales volume, 24% is for agriculture, and 45% is for commercial, and 32% is for residential. And for revenue-wise, it's about the same. It's pretty much aligned with the sales volume percentages. And then for the standard margin, we managed to keep 50.3% revenue, which means 49.7% revenue we spend for cost to buy energy and energy cost.
One quick thing that I'd like to add is we actually are investing our money now, and we're realizing some interest earned. Looks like we started doing that about a couple of months ago, and we already earned about $80,000 worth of interest on the money that we have in the bank, and we are invested in incredibly conservative vehicles, just money market funds, and we are looking into other ways to invest, maybe 6 months certificate of deposit, and other ways of being able to get something a little bit better than 2% return. Financially, I think we're doing very well, and keeping my fingers crossed for next year when with the PCIA numbers and the generation cost from PG&E comes in, but I think we're still in a very enviable position.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Kaufman-Gomez.
While this particular report, the summary doesn't reflect current situation, I know this is for the month of October, will we be looking at something like this in terms of the office expense for the damages from the weather and all of that's happening there? What can we anticipate that to look like?
Tiffany is keeping track of every penny that we are spending, and including loss of productivity, all of it is going to be filed with the insurance company, and we will collect probably maybe 110% if we can from the property owner.
It sounds like you really need that, especially given the history of what damages were happening there.
Right. Other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, this is an action item. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll move to accept.
Second.
Kaufman-Gomez, second by Munzer, who's still here. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So ordered, unanimously. Item number 24, updates on the fiscal year 18-19 budget due to the change of the PG&E Power Charge and Difference Adjustment, or PCIA, and generation rates and amendments to employee salary and benefit schedule.
Yes, we wanted to do just a quick update, realizing that we don't know what the PCIA figures are, what the generation cost eventually will become. So we used the latest figures that we have with the assumption that comes January 1st, these new generation costs and PCIA will be in place. As you've heard earlier, that assumption is now out the door, and the numbers that we are sharing with you today are no longer valid. They are looking at probably maybe $4 to $5 million difference with an increase in cost and reduction in revenue. But as I said, this is no longer valid because now we got the old rates and the old PCIA going further for a couple more months, and that's going to make a bit of a difference. So we'll leave it at that, and promise you that as soon as we get the final numbers on these figures from PG&E, we'll be able to get the budget update back to you in March, and it would look a whole lot more accurate.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions from the public? It's just an informational item. The last item is board member reports or comments. I'd just like to make comments. This is the end of the year, and happy holidays to everyone, and what a great season it's been for us. And overlooking our year-end review, we really have to go back to next year when we really got established. And it was not a marathon, but a sprint to get our implementation plan approved by the California Public Utilities Commission. And frankly, with the PCIA and the way it is now, I'm not sure how many more CCAs are going to be formed in California. It's a sad situation and not understandable with the public policy of the state of California to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and so forth. And as a matter of fact, I think on our county plan, we're showing that the target that we had for 2030 in Santa Cruz County, we're going to reach by next year because of Monterey Bay Community Power and what it's done. And I think it's relatively the same for each of our agencies. The implementation plan last November was critical. I mean, if we wouldn't have made that timeline before the end of the year, we may not be here today, but or surely not in a good position as we are. And then we launched in March with our commercial customers, which use about 2/3 of our power. Then in June with our residential, and I think we have, I might be wrong now, 270,000 accounts, 800,000 people, residents, something like that.
The residents, I think, were about 230 plus, and with the commercial, we're close to 270,000, yes.
Yeah. And what's really important also to realize is that our enrollment's been at 97, just short of 97%, which is maybe the highest of any CCA that has been established. My kudos to and thanks, sincere thanks to everybody and every agency that participated in this and really made this become a reality, because now it's ours and we have it, and we're going to be able to have very good things to announce and to let people know about in the clear energy future. So I just want to thank everybody in the closing comments for this 2018 year, and 2019 is even going to be better, because we're going to be doing bigger and better things for more people in our Tri-County region. Well, now we're spreading out to San Luis Obispo County, so it's great.
County.
Is there anybody else who would like to make some comments? Ms. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to follow up on the, well, I'll just say that I appreciate your look back on our behalf on a really interesting and exciting year, and just the fact that we're here and we're providing 100% carbon-free energy, and there's also the option for 100% renewable, right away for residential customers, unless they have solar on their house, I discovered. But January is my month. Anyway, just really appreciate all the work that has gone in a very short time. I wanted to follow up on some of the conversation earlier, and I don't know exactly how it would come back to this board, but I think there is some interest on the part of this board in how we are going to get community input on what programs there might be. So I think the staff might work with the CAC to develop some ideas so that we can hear how those are going to get rolled out. I think the idea of really making sure that we're going where the people are, and I think the knowledge that, certainly, as Director Brown mentioned, we'd be happy to help as much as we can, but I think some of the expertise there in the Community Advisory Council will be really valuable to make sure that we are getting to some of the folks who, they're not going to be reading the paper, and they may not have access to a computer, but we do they are our customers, and we want to hear what their interests are. So really figuring out how we get to a good cross-section of our customers to get their ideas of what kinds of programs would be helpful to them and to their communities.
I just want to mention, by the way, in the last roughly 8 months, we've been to over 120 maybe different events, community events, farmers market. We had a number of workshops. We'll be in front of just about every city council, sometimes more than once. We probably need to be a little bit more targeted to now talk about the programs and what we can bring in, and that probably is best done through workshops and other means that I'm sure JR and his staff would be able to come up with.
Mr. McShane?
Yeah, I want to acknowledge our chair, McPherson. Thank you so much. I brought you this Christmas cactus here just to say thanks. You've gone above and beyond, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for your leadership. A few things coming up that I have to acknowledge. We're planting a lot of trees in Salinas, and Sustainable Salinas is going to show the Lorax on the 19th of December, 5 to 8. There'll be beverages and food, and I do hope Monterey Bay Community Power can come out and maybe have a booth or something, so I'll send Tom a note about that. Also, on the 23rd of December, we're doing a holiday home lighting tour. 3 buses booked to tour the entire city of Salinas to look at Christmas lights. I think there might be a play for Monterey Bay Community Power. PG&E has been the longtime supporter, but I think it's about time, given that these lights are powered by us, there could be a role. And then also on the 19th of January, a sustainability fair and electric vehicle test drive in Salinas at City Hall for Salinas Valley, and that'll be really neat. We're still looking for a good keynote. So Tom, if you have any ideas, let me know. Somebody we could bring in that just be all-star at the noon hour. So I'll be sure to share that with directors and the public as well. Have a great holiday.
Yeah. Anyone else? Comments? All right, with that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
You know who I talked to on the way up?